I'm Natalie. Welcome to the Stride Sisters podcast. On today's episode, I'm on my way home for Marathon Weekend. However, I didn't want to leave you without an episode this week. And lucky for us, we got the Disneyland event guide as a little treat on New Year's Eve. I'll be discussing the Disneyland Half Marathon Weekend 2026 event guide. It's a little bittersweet to be talking about the final Disneyland race for the foreseeable future. But we're all hoping it's simply a ta-ta for now. I'll break down everything from yoga to the expo logistics to the races themselves, and all those magical little details in between. So, lace up your shoes and step into the magic with us. The sun is shining. Marathon weekend's over. Marathon weekend's over? Hi, everybody. I'm coming at you from the past, and you are in the future. So, I have not yet left for Marathon weekend, but when you hear this, Marathon weekend is over. Congratulations to everybody. I can't wait to hear all your stories and hope I got to see some people along the way. I am really hoping I don't have a submission to the Blister Brigade, but after 48.6, you never know. Did just run some marathons, so sometimes it's a little inevitable, but I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at taking precautions at certain points. I don't know. I'm going to leave this like Schrodinger's box because I don't want to summon or jinx it. You know what I mean. But it feels like, I'm on my way home today from Marathon Weekend. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are just getting home and, leaving tomorrow, etc. So it's a little crazy to be already talking about the next race weekend, but such is life, such is the timing, which worked out really nicely for me to have things prepared. So we have 16 days until Disneyland Half Marathon Weekend 2026. Super exciting. 44 days until Princess Half Marathon Weekend 2026. We're at 93 days until Springtime Surprise Weekend 2026. And 282 days until Wine and Dine Half Marathon Weekend 2026. Now, I could have done the diabolical thing and say that there's 350 something days until the next marathon weekend, but I decided to be nice today. You're welcome. That'll get added back to the countdown next week. I feel like it's a little bit easier to, even though we have next season's dates, which we talked about last week, I feel like it's a little bit easier to process if we don't start throwing like double marathon weekends or double princesses. Let me know though. Because I'm coming at you from the past, you are going to want to get your Disney news from somewhere else. If it's a Dawes Does Disney week, that's a good place to get it. Hyperion Adventurers podcast, all friends of ours. Hopefully we didn't have any like big breaking news, which I'm going to feel a little silly with this if we did. Oh well, it's only so much you can do. I'm going to roll into Disney fun facts. On this date in 1930, the first Mickey Mouse comic strip is published in the New York Mirror, and other Randolph Hearst owns newspapers throughout the country. I feel like Mickey has like a couple birthdays and stuff. No, his birthday being celebrated back in November, but that's exciting that it was the very first. And also on January 13th of 1966, Patrick Dempsey is born in Lewiston, Maine. Patrick Dempsey is on the Disney circuit, known best for his role as Dr. Derek Shepherd in Grey's Anatomy. And also, he is the male protagonist in Enchanted. Now, I'm going to take a step back to Grey's Anatomy for a second. He is McDreamy. I'm not going to do spoilers, even though he's been off the show for almost 11 years now. I'd say some of the peak golden age of Grey's Anatomy was when Patrick Dempsey was on it, like those early seasons. Definitely, that is some prime television. And obviously, I've been on this little Grey's journey over the last, at this point, year and a half or so, where I've been working my way through it. I've actually kind of gotten back into it because when I'm at my mom's house, I go on the treadmill and I turn Grey's on, which is nice. But even though I had big things spoiled for me, it was kind of cool to go through. I knew a lot of big plot things, but I didn't know how they all tied together and if they were at the same time, or I didn't know. It's really worth watching, I would say. Big Grey's girly here. And I'm cooking my way through, am I on 13? Season 12. No, I'm on season 12. I'm going to get to 13. I'm getting my way through it. Slowly but surely. Mr. Natalie has kind of hopped off the train because, as promised, he said that Patrick Dempsey's last season, he really wanted it to be Christina Yang, so Sandra Oh's last season, to be the end. He did hold on through Patrick Dempsey's last season. So maybe he'll go back to what he used to do, where he would peer over from the kitchen, oh, okay, if there's an interesting plot point. But I do, as if these are our friends, I do keep him updated on his favorite characters and what they're up to and where I am watching. So we got a lot going on with April right now. Let's just say that. And April is one of his favorites, mostly because Sarah Drew is one of his favorites, the actress. So I keep him updated as if these are my besties. Or collective besties, which is kind of funny. It's the meme where it's it's as if your NFL stars are keeping my girlfriend updated on the tea as if they're my friends. But yeah, happy birthday to Patrick Dempsey and that beautiful mane of hair. I don't even have the idea of a good transition out of that one. I'm going to be straight up with you. So we're going to talk the Disneyland event guide. Yay. I am super excited. It's it is interesting. So when I last did the January Disneyland weekend, it was the week after Marathon Weekend. It was Dopey to Dumbo, coast to coast. For me, it was Goofy to Dumbo. So I think it'll be really interesting for me to compare how I feel about having a couple weeks off and then back in versus just hold on to your hats and glasses. Let's go. And let's go across the country. Our featured charity of the weekend is Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Orange County, which creates and supports life-changing relationships that ignite the power and promise of the next generation. So there's a link on the Run Disney website if you want to learn a little bit more about this charity. Our expo hours are Thursday, January 29th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday, January 30th from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, January 31st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. All are at the Disneyland Hotel, which is exciting. We do get a little bit wider of expo hours at Disneyland. I wonder if that's really to kind of accommodate that a lot more is in a smaller space. I guess if this is going to be your first Disneyland race, if you want to get your coast to coast, welcome, she says, as also an outsider. But just know that the expo on the West Coast is different. It's lovely for what it is if you want to get through things more quickly, etc. But it is smaller because it's in the ballrooms at the Disneyland Hotel. Your check-in pass will be available during race week, is what the event guide says. Generally speaking, this is available on Monday prior to the races, though. So but it just says race week. So I would just start checking your participant account. So your Run Disney participant account for the check-in pass around that Monday or Tuesday. Also, the event guides do update a little bit close to the race weekends. So I'm going to take Wine and Dine, for example. In 2025, we got the bombshell dropped about the no beer cups on Expo Day. So at least no beer cups at the Expo. That was dropped on Expo Day. So we'll see. Sometimes there will be some updates made, and I'll get to actually another one I would anticipate to happen a little later. Club Run Disney shopping, if you are Platinum, will start at 7 a.m. If you are Gold, it will start at 7:45 a.m. Reference your email for your details on that, of where you line up, where you get your wristband for it. There's a virtual queue that will be in place both for merchandise and for the Brooks shoes. They are separate virtual queues out on the West Coast, though. It opens at 7 a.m. Pacific time. You must be within 90 miles of Disneyland. And you have an hour and a half, so 90 minutes, to arrive to the location after you've been called. Again, there are two separate virtual queues between Merch and Brooks. You add one at a time. So you'll enter the one, and then you'll enter the second one. I was not there on day one of the expo for Halloween Half Marathon Weekend. I don't remember hearing people talk negatively about it. So I get the double virtual queues. So hopefully that is the case. If you actually have that feedback, please let me know. I didn't go till day 2. So the virtual queue is in place for Thursday, January 29th only. Otherwise, it'll be kind of walk on in. Speaking of your Brooks shoes, those will be in the Lilo parking lot outside the Disneyland Hotel. And you can only return or exchange starting on day 2 of the expo. So the only thing that we know as of day of recording, so remember I'm coming at you from the past, is that we are going to see the Stitch shoes come back for Disneyland weekend. Just a note on the expo, you must pick up your bib the day before your race, and you cannot pick up a bib for someone else unless they are a minor. Going to take a note on some expo parking. It's going to be located at the Pixar Palace parking structure via the entrance off Magic Way. If you show your check-in pass to the parking attendants, you'll receive a discounted rate for parking at that location. Otherwise, daily parking rates will apply. I believe it was $10 off for Halloween, but this is something also that was left a little vague. Your parking structure hours at Pixar Palace parking are on Thursday, January 29th, 6 a.m. Expo opens at 10. Friday, you can open at 8 a.m. and Saturday at 8 a.m. as well. There are some walking directions as well from the Pixar Palace parking structure. You know, at the Sorcerer's Hat, once you get toward the Disneyland Hotel, you turn right and then proceed past the Fantasy Tower sign. One thing about this is, if you haven't picked up, the Disneyland event guides are not quite as robust as the Walt Disney World ones. And we'll get to that in a little bit and how that is. It does not appear that we have like a little like Hulu lounge situation going on here, but could be subject to change. Who knows? I'm going to start with yoga, which is on Thursday, January 29th. So before the expo, actually. Your Mickey and Friends parking will open at 3 a.m. Your check-in locations at the main entrance plaza at ticket booth number 5 from 3:45 a.m. to 4:45 a.m. You will receive a check-in pass for this, so you'll need your check-in pass and your valid ID. What gets provided is a mat, carrying strap, and a water bottle. Yoga starts at 5 a.m. and goes until 6 a.m. And the diva of the day is Miss Piggy. So she is our theme for yoga. I have the worst FOMO for this, but I cannot make it work. So it's sold out, but I cannot make it work. But I do have FOMO for yoga because it's in Disneyland Park It's in front of the castle. So the last few yogas we've had have been in Hollywood Studios. They've just been in different locations at Walt Disney World. So this one is like the castle yoga. So I'm so excited for you if you are doing it. I know KG will be there. That's exciting. One more note, it's going to be one PhotoPass ID per participant, which will be on your check-in pass. And out at Disneyland, your photos are included with registration, so that's exciting. And I mean your race photos. If you decide to go into the parks later on, those photos are a different story, but your race photos are included with registration. And just anecdotally, this solves kind of the problem of, say you wanted to take a day off of the parks, like how you were going to get your pictures, because that first weekend back in 2024, it was a little bit of a gray area on like how the heck was that going to work. And people having some problems trying to activate that because you can get your day photos with purchase of Lightning Lane Multipass, but it was Genie at the time. But this kind of eliminates that confusion of when you can actually get your pictures when they're included. Just one note as well is that your PhotoPass ID is not necessarily going to be linked to your bib number. It's not like the days of yore, I should say. So make sure you pay attention to your check-in pass for that. On to our courses. So we're going to start with the 5K. Your timeline will look like this. So Mickey and Friends parking structure will open at 3 a.m. Security won't open until 3:30 a.m. 4 a.m. is when the staging area and corrals open. 5 a.m. is when the race starts. 5:15 is when the start line closes. So when we say the staging area and where you start, you get to start right on Main Street or right in front of the castle. So the start line is to the right of the castle. You're looking directly at the Matterhorn. And it's very, very exciting. So to take you through the course just a little bit, you go directly toward the Matterhorn. You're going to go back toward Fantasyland. And then behind It's a Small World, which will be closed, to go backstage. Then you're backstage for a little bit. And it's actually really exciting when the backstage cast members, they get really, really hyped back there. So that's really cool. You re-enter the parks near Galaxy's Edge, over near the Millennium Falcon, and then you head into Frontierland before you re-enter Fantasyland again from the other side to then run through the castle. Very magical, very awesome that out at Disneyland you can run through the castle during the 5K. Don't have to be doing a half marathon. Then, after running through the castle, you're going to head towards Adventureland to New Orleans Square before going back into Galaxy's Edge to exit Disneyland Park. So at this point, you have just run past Tom Sawyer Island, past Haunted Mansion, past Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and then you are backstage. Your water stop, you have a one water stop on this course, is right after mile 2 and is backstage. Kind of like behind Adventureland. Then you cross into the Esplanade and then enter Disney's California Adventure. You enter and then you go down and take a left to get you toward the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. And then you get to run through Avengers Campus, which is amazing. So much fun. You are going to run and you're going to blip near Radiator Springs. You do not go into Radiator Springs on this course. But you are headed on the home stretch toward Pixar Pier. You get to run through Pixar Pier and then finish right after Pixar Pier. So this is a course where you are in the park. You start and finish in the parks, which is so unique and so amazing. I'll talk about spectators in a little bit. Just to note, and our theme for the 5K is joy. On to the 10K. Our 10K theme is Sorcerer Mickey. We have 3 water stops on this course. One of them's behind Radiator Springs, kind of before you enter the park. One of them is on Main Street right after mile 3, so right around the timing mat. And then the final one is behind Galaxy's Edge before you re-enter the park before mile 5. There are 2 medical stops. One of them is around that water stop near mile 3, and the other one is right after the water stop before mile 5. But this course is the creme de la creme of a Run Disney course. You do not start in the parks this time, but you spend most of your time in the parks, which is amazing. I'm going to go through your timeline. So at 3 a.m., the Toy Story parking lot opens. 3:30 a.m., security screening opens, as well as the family reunion area and corrals. 5 a.m. is when the race starts. 5:30 a.m. is when the start line closes. If you're more of a Walt Disney World regular, just note that corrals don't open until 3:30. Security won't either. Something to note is, again, if you're a Walt Disney World regular, security is kind of like the old school way of security where they don't have the kind of like fancy things where you walk right through and then if you beep, you have to get yourself checked. They have gotten a lot better with security screening out on the West Coast for races where they're not like checking you 3 times usually. Same rules apply though of like prohibited items, but it's a little bit easier. On to the courses. So you start, your first mile is out in the streets of Anaheim, but as you kind of can tell, you're getting closer into going backstage. It gets really exciting. And then you kind of round the bend and then you're going behind the parks, and kind of exciting because this area will eventually be a little different, just due to some of the construction in place or that is going to be in progress. But the first piece of park you get to see is Radiator Springs. So you get to run down a nice, beautifully lit Radiator Springs, and you enter near Radiator Springs Racers, and then you are on your way to Pixar Pier. You hit Pixar. You kind of are leaving Pixar Pier around mile 2. You can always smell the barbecue though as you're getting to Pixar Pier. So it's like, I think the barbecue at Lamplight Lounge. I don't know. Even it's like 6 a.m. and every single time I've run this, I've gone, it smells really good. It's like, I didn't know I could go for barbecue at 6 a.m. But also 6 a.m. that time is like 8 a.m. my time. But also it's usually not when I want BBQ. Yeah, anyway. But you head toward near Grizzly River Run is where kind of the entrance to the Disney's Grand Californian is. You loop around there near where their Soarin' is as well, and head back into the park and then you get to go into Avengers Campus as well. Avengers Campus is absolutely wonderful to run through. Very exciting. All good things. Hopefully your favorite Marvel characters are out. And then after that, you run and leave DCA. You run through the Esplanade. This is where lots of spectators will be, which is very exciting. And you kind of loop your way into Disneyland Park. You hit mile 3 and that first water stop, and then you get to run down Main Street and see the castle, which is super duper exciting. You then loop your way through Adventureland into New Orleans Square, kind of a little bit of the opposite of we did for the 5K. If you did do the 5K, you go backstage for a little blip, and then you pop back into Galaxy's Edge. Then you head into Frontierland, and you do not run through the castle on this, but you run around the hub, around the partner statue, which is kind of nice because there's usually a castle stop right in front of the castle. The line usually will look a lot worse than it actually is, if I'm being honest with you. They have, at least at Halloween, they had it set up like Walt Disney World, so where there are multiple photographers, but you'd never know that there were multiple photographers set there. But it usually goes a lot faster. Then you head into Tomorrowland, say a little hello, to Tomorrowland, loop around, then you run past the Matterhorn, you go back through Fantasyland, you kind of see almost like you see and you dip near the castle, but then head into Galaxy's, actually you head into Galaxy's Edge from there, go backstage again, you re-enter in Toontown, which is really fun. They usually have really fun character photo ops back in Toontown, have some good characters, good photo ops. Toontown is just delightful. And also you're at mile 5, so that's pretty exciting. You will pass the closed It's a Small World for now. And then you run behind the parks. So you're backstage. You have this like, in case you're wondering what the dotted line is at part of the course between miles 5 and 6, that's where you're going a little bit underground. There's this like kind of tunnel down there. And then you loop out, then you're back on the streets of Anaheim to hit mile 6 and then get to your finish line. So this is an amazing course. Like in terms of how much park time you can get in there, it's really, really awesome. All right. The next event on the calendar are the kids' races. This is on Saturday, January 31st. If you're parking, it's the same Toy Story parking lot off Harbor, and you can access the race location via Clementine Avenue, but that had been open since 3 in the morning in the first place. So you're going to use each race for the kids races will have their own start line, but they're all going to use the same finish line as the 10K and half, which is awesome. There are designated times that parents should bring their registered children to the staging zone, which the kids' activity zone will open at 8 a.m. for registered children and their families to enjoy activities. So these are the times which you need to be in the staging area. So if you have 1 to 3-year-old, 8:45 a.m. for the 100-meter zone, 4 to 6-year-old, 9:05 a.m. at the 200-meter zone, 7 to 9 years old, 9:20 a.m. at the 300-meter zone, 12 months and under at the 10 a.m. at the diaper dash zone. Parents who wish to run with their children are encouraged to do so, but only the registered participant will receive the finisher medallion. The race bib situation, kind of back to the expo a bit, each 100, 200, and 300-meter runner is going to be issued a race bib at packet pickup and should wear that race bib on the front of their shirt. If you're a diaper dash racer, listen up. You can wear your race bib on your back during the race and change it to the front of your attire for any post-race photographs. Please complete the emergency contact information on the back of the bib. So there is a parent claim process for this. Each race bib includes a tear-off tag with your child's race number on it. Prior to the start, parents and legal guardians will need to detach the parent claim tag and keep it with them while the participant is racing. At each race finish, the parent claim tags will be matched with the race bib for the participant to be returned to the parent or legal guardian. This is kind of crazy that these could be the last kids races for the foreseeable future. Now, we don't know whether or not we're going to see these return for Wine and Dine. Maybe this is the year that we get kids races back on the East Coast, which historically were held at ESPN Wide World of Sports. Maybe. I think it'd be awesome if they did. I still want the Diaper Dash to Dopey story. Just FYI, I'm not dropping that for as long as I live. No. But super duper cute. Good luck to your kiddos if they're participating in the race. I'm pretty sure that the Diaper Dash is probably the cutest thing I'll ever see. Not that I'll be there because I don't have kids of my own or close people that I know their kids. But super duper freaking cute. I always love the little tiny shirts too that they pass out. I remember seeing the Chip and Dale ones on the kiddos during 2024 in that race. It was just so darn cute. And the medals. Oh, that medal is so cute. It's Stitch themed. All right. Now on to the Coast to Coast Maker, the Half Marathon. I'm going to go over the timeline first. At 3 a.m., the Toy Story parking lot opens. 3:30 a.m., security screening opens, as well as the family reunion area and the corrals. 5 a.m. race start. 5:45 a.m. start line close. In case you're wondering how kind of the balloon lady, and this is where we have like the balloon dude math works. This means, so we don't have the estimated last finisher thing on this coast, but I can do that math for you. That's kind of like my specialty. So half marathon at a 16-minute pace, 3.5 hours. So 3.5 hours from 5:45 a.m. means 9:15 a.m. So that will be pretty much your time to be off the course. Obviously, if there are things that change or happen, but kind of keep that in mind if you're a little nervous. So, what's interesting about this on the event guide, and where I said that sometimes we have things change. Well, something we will probably see change, and not probably, I mean, definitely, is that we don't have the water and Powerade stops, food stops, or medical stops marked on the map at the moment. It does say on there subject to change, so that's a little, we're leaning in heavy to that. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the historical information for that. So I would imagine this would stay the same as it has in the past, in that we'd have 9 water and Powerade stops. The first one's usually water only, which means the rest of them are water and Powerade. 1 food stop, usually that's between miles 7 and 8, if not just around 7, and then 4 medical stops. Now, with the nature of this course, if you haven't gotten to look at it yet, we see a lot of out and backs, or like areas where the runners are, you'll be able to see the people either in front of you or behind you. So when you're at mile 6.5, you'll see the people at mile 10 on the other side of the road. So I would imagine that this is going to be reminiscent of the Halloween half course, where a lot of your medical stops are also, could work for both, but yeah, it is really fun. I will say, I found it really energizing. It was really awesome to me to cheer on the people in front of me, also cheer on the people behind me when I ran the Halloween half. But I am going to talk a little bit about the course. So we start, and we have pretty much the same first 1.5 miles as we did, actually the first 2 miles as we did for the 10K. And we go into Radiator Springs first, near Radiator Springs Racers, then onto Pixar Pier, and then around near Grizzly River Run, etc. So actually, really, the first 3 miles are about the same as the 10K, which they're awesome. So if you find a favorite bathroom during this time, boom, good times. There are, since we're in the parks at this point, there are bathrooms galore. I would definitely recommend using the potty here. For sure. Because once you're in the streets of Anaheim, there are going to be porta potties in some places, but, definitely better to take care of business elsewhere. So then once we go into Disneyland Park, we actually turn right toward Tomorrowland first, and then run through Tomorrowland, run near the Nemo submarines, run up toward Toontown, toward Toontown, except we exit Pine Small World, and then we re-enter in Toontown to hit mile 4. Then we run into Fantasyland, and then you get to run through the castle again, which is amazing. It's so fun. Then we head toward Adventureland, go around near Tom Sawyer Island in Norland Square, head into Galaxy's Edge, spend a good amount of time in Galaxy's Edge before then we are we're backstage. Again, the cast members backstage get really, really, really hype. I believe it's like third shift custodial that like really brings the energy, which is awesome. That's around mile 5, and then we kind of exit Disney property around mile 5.5. Then we are out in the streets of Anaheim. Really the only like course incline I'd say is like one little overpass, but it's a lot gentler than any of the Disney ones, if I'm being honest with you, heading into mile 6. Now, this is a way that we have not, since they brought back races, have not gone. We head actually north of the whole Disneyland resort. But something that I've found online, or I've found in some discourse online, is that this is really reminiscent of the old Tinkerbell half course, which I think is really awesome. We're going to go near Anaheim City Hall, but not like quite there. As we head, we're going to go see the Kobe Bryant Memorial. And there's a lot, and be like kind of further north in Anaheim. I believe there's at least one McDonald's for the villains on course, but there's a lot of cool things to say. The community really does come out and cheer. Some people like really get into like passing stuff out. I remember there were a lot of people who had like Coca-Cola, they had red vines, they had, I hope the 501st, sorry, is back out again, cheering for Star Wars races to come back. But there's a lot of times when we're going to be able to see our other runners coming the other way, which is awesome. And then, we blip around. There's a couple little loops. This almost feels like a run I would have put together myself in terms of like, we're going to add this like cul-de-sac looking thing here. It looks like a roundabout, but kind of funny. And then we head on back down. We do another out and back. We head, and then as you start getting closer to Disney Way, then you'll get closer to, the parks, and then you head on to the finish, and it's the last race at Disneyland for the foreseeable future. I don't know. I think knowing that this is reminiscent of older courses and with Tinkerbell and whatnot, that'll be awesome. The community, it's very energizing. So it's really flat too, and usually very fast. And there's a lot of like elbow room. So that's pretty nice. And if sometimes with like some of the ways that the water stations, which we don't know at this point in time of recording, where they're going to be, it's kind of nice because I was given water on like both sides of it. I think it was around like mile 7 or so during the half. Maybe it was closer to 10. Actually, I think it was closer to 10 at this point. It was a turnaround point, but they are passing out water on both sides. So that was nice to do and to have. I'm going to talk a little bit about transportation and parking outside the expo. So for the yoga and 5K, it's 3 a.m. Mickey and Friends parking structure is when it opens. For 10K, kids races and half marathon, it's 3 a.m. at the Toy Story parking lot. If you're staying at the Disneyland Resort hotels, this is for registered guests of the Disneyland Resort hotels. There will be shuttles available from 3:15 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on 10K day and on half marathon day. You'll have to show your Disneyland Resort hotel room key to board the bus marked for Run Disney athletes and spectators. The shuttle route includes stops in the following order: first, Disneyland Hotel; second, Grand Californian; third, East Shuttle area located between the theme parks near Harbor Boulevard. So if you're staying at Pixar Pier, you're going to want to walk over to one of those two stops. We don't have projected start times for this one, except, as you may have picked up as I was talking, is that they do try to get them out pretty quickly at Disneyland. For the 5K, the race starts at 5, says start line closes at 5:15 a.m. And something, if you've never raced here before, to note is that it goes, a whole corral goes at once. So there are usually bigger gaps between the corrals. So it might be instead of every 2-minute interval, it'll be more of a 5-minute interval. But all of A will go at 5 a.m., for example. Usually it goes A to D for the 5K. I don't want to make any promises on that because I actually don't have them, unlike the Walt Disney World event guides. For the 10K, race starts at 5, start line closes at 5:30 a.m. And for the half, race starts at 5, start line closes at 5:45 a.m. Now, talking coast-to-coast info. This will be on your check-in pass if you are eligible. And by if you are eligible, this means if you are getting the medal at the end of the half marathon. If this is your first qualifying race, it will say not eligible. right? So say you're doing Disneyland and then Princess. Princess is where you're going to get the medal, so it'll say not eligible on there. Now, so the only people who will be getting their coast to coast at Disneyland weekend are the people who did Marathon weekend and are doing Disneyland Half Marathon weekend. Okay? So, not just your dopies to Dumbos because it's a combination of races. It has to be the 10 miler, half marathon, marathon are the distances. So if you're doing 10Ks, that's a no. But you must receive a wristband at the expo and you'll get the medal after that second race. So if you don't get your wristband at the expo, you're going to want to go back or just make sure. I would say you just want to remind them. I think by this race, this will be the fifth race. So hopefully they're a little bit more seasoned with that. But I have heard people who've had to remind them, hey, like I'm coast to coast eligible to get that wristband. As our friend Jess learned last year, don't let them put it on too tight because the wristband stays on. They cut it off after that second race. So usually they ask. I've never had them not ask, like, hey, is this too tight? But make sure it's going to be comfortable for you, especially if you're going to go on the first day of the expo and you won't get that cut off till like 9 a.m. on Sunday. You want to make sure it's comfy enough to stay on. In terms of race day information and gear check, it's available for all the races. For the 5K, it's located at the Esplanade between Disneyland Park and DCA. It does say to not use any like guest lockers in the parks or even like in those areas. Make sure you get to the gear check. For the 10K and half marathon, it's located at the family reunion area. You're going to want to use the clear bag from the expo, but there are usually extras if you forget yours. And if you forget your gear check, they go to Disneyland Guest Relations outside the park entrance. If you lose something that's not clothing, it goes to Lost and Found. But if you lose clothes, they do get donated, same as at Walt Disney World. I guess if you're a diaper dash and you wanted to gear check, you probably, first of all, you're a baby and you probably don't understand this. Secondly, you probably are going to give it to your parents. So that's not available for the kids' races. On to spectator information. For the 5K, you actually can get into the parks to spectate. It is only going to be between 4:30 a.m. to 6:15 a.m. And you can spectate at the finish line at Pixar Pier. You'll enter California Adventure through the gate near World of Disney in downtown Disney. Anecdotally, my friend of the pod, Jamie, said it was very easy to follow where he was supposed to go. He's not a Disneyland regular. He had been once before, but he happened to be in Southern California when I was doing the 5K in 2024. So he said it was very easy to follow the crowd and go where he was supposed to go. For the 10K, your spectator areas are located around Harbor Boulevard and Catella, plus the family reunion area. So Harbor and Catella is really where you go out after you start. And also for the half, that's where it is. But in the community, usually people do come out. It says to use bright paper for signs, know your athlete's pace, track them on runner tracking. I will say that is only so accurate because it goes off of estimates. So if you're like me and you're just having fun playtime and spending an hour to do your first 5K because you're having fun playtime, it might not be the most accurate. So definitely keep in touch with your runner. Now, there is no race etiquette portion of this event guide. However, I won't lead you without a couple, nice little bits of it. Please pay attention to your pre-race instructions that are both digital and verbal. It'll help guide you through the race course and keep you safe. One thing that is mentioned in this event guide is to kind of discourage use of headphones. So if you are going to use headphones, something like shocks where you can still hear around you, or one earbud is probably for the best. Enter your correct start group. Walk no more than 2 abreast. If your bestie is in a different start group, the faster of the two can move back to the slower start group. If you're stopping at a water station, move all the way over to the table, grab your water, and then scooch away so that others can get water too. When you're approaching the finish line, you may see loved ones cheering you on. Please remember that only registered participants are allowed on the course, so do not encourage anyone to join you at the finish line stretch. One thing to note, this is not the event guide, but in the family reunion area, there usually are a couple different vendors of food, different food trucks. There are some photo ops too. I felt like they really brought it at Halloween. There are not going to be characters at the start and finish though. They will have like Mickey sometimes, or for this they might have Dumbo before the start of the race, but also maybe not because the Dumbo costume is very fragile. But not for you to take pictures with. Just how similarly to Walt Disney World, how like Chip and Dale would have just started off the 10K on Friday. So just to settle your expectations, to my knowledge, there is no beer cup or beverage only. So again, just to manage that expectation. Still really fun. They really brought it, gotten better with the photo pass and having like post race, like I did at photos and stuff. They're just different. So you don't have like the I did it paddles necessarily, but you will have some post and Run Disney photographers in the finish line area or start line areas or start and finish line area. But again, just to manage that expectation if you are new to this and haven't done a Disneyland race before. There were a couple deals left in the event guide. So I'll pop these in the show notes as well. So Honey Stinger, code Disney30 to save. Didn't see an end date for that one. Mission, which is your cooling towels. Run Disney 25 to enjoy 25% off site wide. So all their different cooling products that they have. There's a Charlie Magnesium Sport Gel, which is kind of a brilliantly named thing because of Charlie horses. Code HAPPY20 to save 20% online. Expires on February 1st of 2026, though. And Sparkle Athletic has Joyful 10 for 10% off until February 15th, 2026. Well, I think that's about it in terms of what we got on this event guide. Like I said, not quite as robust as the Walt Disney World ones, but I guess it's time to wax poetically a little bit about Disneyland races. I think they're a blast. They really are. It is a little different from Walt Disney World, right? It's a smaller scale. Not only that, there's only 2 parks, but there's a special kind of magic to them. And I'm going to be a little sad to see them go for sure. I mean, more than just a little sad, but obviously I feel like I came from the opinion of like, yeah, it's okay if I don't do one again for a couple of years to like, okay, well, I want to do Halloween once before it goes away. And then at Halloween, I was like, dang, I really, really want to try to get back for the final weekend. So I think we have, especially our themes are great. I don't know if I talked about, the Small World half. That's wonderful. The Dumbo Double Dare. He's so cute. So I think it's a lovely goodbye. We're celebrating the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. I think it's a lovely little goodbye to races here. And I don't necessarily want to say that it's a goodbye. I'd love to say that it's more of just a see you later. Um, you know, who knows when they return. I want to say, and this is just kind of my personality in general, that I am an optimist and I don't think that they're going to be gone forever. I do think that we will see them again when we see them. That part, not as sure about, but I don't know. I felt like they were really hitting their stride, and it would be a little sad to see that not like go away, but then also things will probably turn over in the next couple of years. I don't know. But I'm going to sit and remain optimistic that it's not going to be like too long before we see races again because it's so fun. It's just really fun. Disneyland in general is just a blast. I'm going to drop some unsolicited advice again if this is your first time, even if it's like not, but 2 words: churro, toffee. I rest my case. Just kidding. Churro toffee is available at Bing Bong's on Pixar Pier. It is delicious. Everybody who I have brought it home for has loved it. So everyone's loved it. Mr. Natalie loves it. That was his favorite treat I brought home in September, and I knew it would be. I brought some home for my boss. I brought some, I bring the churro toffee home. Most people, when they find out I'm going to Disneyland, they're like, can you get me some churro toffee? It's delicious. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Try to catch Paint the Night because that'll be back during the race weekend, which is super duper exciting. So that's also amazing. That lives up to the hype, I gotta say. It's like it's a parade. No, it lives up to the hype. I am really curious because hopefully at this point, I have now seen Disney Starlight. Obviously, I'm in the past, so I'm at home and I haven't yet. But it'll be interesting if I can compare it a little bit. I try not to compare nighttime spectaculars that aren't like supposed to be the same. So like Phantasmic Coast to Coast, like I will compare those. And which one I like better. And I'm hoping to catch Phantasmic as well. But I'm excited. I'm so excited. And it's really nice when there's like not a marathon at the end of it too. That'll be pretty sweet. Because who knows what kind of sack of bones I'm running right now. I don't. That's for sure. But anyway, you've got some time, so continue. If you start panic crafting or assembling costume stuff, I actually, surprisingly enough, I'm pretty good on costumes. Have I thought of things for Princess? No. I mean, a thought maybe, but committed to anything for Princess? No. But for Disneyland, I'm cooking because I knew that it would be such a quick turnaround that I'd be a little frazzled if I wasn't. So, also, I don't think I mentioned this is that I am still like holding out Delulu hope that I'm gonna cash in on a 5K bib. It is a-okay if it doesn't happen. It might also be for the best based on when I land on Thursday on Expo Day. I have a couple of hours. I think I would be fine to get that bib, but that like silly little thing. Yeah, it'll be fine if it doesn't work out for me to do that. But I would love to do that course one more time. Especially KG is going to be there, so that'll be fun. But I am really, really excited. I'm really excited to kind of be able to, say goodnight to the Disneyland races. Well, ta-ta for now. And get back in the Disneyland parks too. It is just, I know people ask like, and they tell me I'm giving a cop-out answer of like, which do you like better? I'm like, well, they are just so different. So it's tough to really give that answer correctly, but there's just different aspects. It's like it's a bubble, but it's a different type of bubble. But I gotta, everybody like kind of like cross your fingers for me that I find Wanda this trip. Please. Please. Okay. I've been trying to find Wanda for so long. I'm going to be so sad if she's only out for the 5K and I don't get to do the 5K. Like, I will just spoil it. I have a costume already, duh. Oh, wait, yeah, that's not even a spoiler because I wore it this weekend. So, like, I have the costume for the 5K. Pulse, please. All right. I think I've gone on long enough. Let's see. Any other closing thoughts for you? No. Run happy. Recover well if you are coming home from marathon weekend. Don't feel like you have to like be right back at it. Even if there's some people who do like want to go for a run on Fridays, just you do you. Even if it's like a week, even if it's like a 10 days before you really want to run again. You do you. Your body is your body. If you need more recovery time, take the recovery time. Right? Right after a marathon's the best time to veg out, right? No, but I think in actuality, just take the recovery time that you need because you don't want to just rush back into it and then just feel terrible. I I'm not committing myself to being sworn off marathons for a bit yet, but because we all know that that's just not going to happen. But I think that, you know, I'm going to enjoy vegging out. I keep saying like I'm going to do less, which is hilarious because I have two halves like within like 6 weeks after marathon weekend, but whatever. Girl math says whatever. Anyway, but yeah, your body is your body. Keep your recovery timeline is your recovery timeline. So just because everyone else or other people are like back at it really quickly and you don't want to be, don't be. Take the rest. It's a lot to put your body through a marathon, or its first 5K, its first 10K, its first dopey, its first whatever it is you did. Just take the time you need. You know, if it's just mobility you want to do for a little while, that's awesome. Just strength training, that's awesome. You know, don't push your body past what its capabilities just like because other people are doing it. You do you. And maybe this is time for you to pick up something you've been wanting to do because you are no longer training for a marathon. Awesome. Go skiing. Go take those different cycling classes. That's awesome. All right. Bye, everybody. If you enjoyed listening to our show, please leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We love reading your reviews out loud. You might even be featured on a future podcast episode. We have a community spotlight on our Instagram at Stride Sisters Podcast. If you want to be featured for a Medal Monday, Finish Line Friday, or any accomplishment you want to celebrate, send us a picture via our social media platforms or our email. And to continue the fun, join us on our Facebook page. All the ways to connect with us can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Until our next adventure, we're wishing you endless smiles of magic and memories. See you next time.